previous videos, I went ahead and I completed the square for these figures here, these expressions. Then I went ahead and I solved by completing the square, which is a slightly different process. But it's either taking one and then making x the subject, or you can do it from the beginning, making it equal to 0. So let's make it equal to 0. And again, there's plenty of ways of doing this. There's no one right way. But here's a couple of ways. So here's the last way I'm going to show you. So we've got 2x squared plus 11x plus 5 is equal to 0. So let's go ahead. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide everything by 2. And this is where the major departure, I think, and this comes just by, I suppose, if you compare it to just going ahead and completing the square. Because if we're solving, you'll recall we put the 2 outside the large brackets. Everything was inside the large brackets until the last moment. And then, of course, we had to then multiply everything from the outside of the large brackets with everything on the inside. In this case, we're not going to do that. We're going to divide everything by 2 from the outset. Divide this by 2, divide this by 2, and this by 2, and this by 2. Now, we don't have to restore that later, because when we divide 2 into 0, we get 0. So this just disappears. We're left with this, and of course that disappears too. So now that implies that we're left with an x squared plus an 11x on 2. We've got a 5 on 2, and it all equals 0. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to subtract the 5 on 2 from both sides. So subtract 5 on 2 minus the 5 on 2. There it is. So I'm now left with a x squared plus 11x on 2 is equal to, I've got a negative 5 on 2. And of course, on this side, we're going to have the completed square. We're going to make everything equal to the other side, and then I'm going to solve for x. Now, I'm now going to take the b term, and rather than adding and subtracting it to the same side, I'm just going to add it to both sides. So I'm going to go plus, the b term is 11 over 2. I'm going to halve it. I'm going to square it. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, except this time I'm not going to add and subtract to both sides. I'm just going to add it to both sides. So plus here, a plus here. It's going to be 11 over, I'm going to go straight and write 4 this time. And I'm going to square the whole thing. All right, now we know the bit on this side. This is the beauty of this thing here. That, of course, becomes our completed square. There it is. I've got an x, I've got a squared, and I've got a plus, and this is 11 over 4. All done. Now, what have we got on the other side? We've got a negative 5 over 2. We're going to add that 2, and I've got 11 squared is going to be 121. 4 squared is going to be 16. Now, I can't be bothered, to be honest, working that out in my head. So I'm just going to go straight to the calculator. Here we go. So I've got a minus 5 on 2, and I'm going to add that to 121 over 16. What do we get? We get 81 on 16. Let's have a look. So I've got my x. That implies that we've got an x plus 11 on 4, all squared, is equal to, I think that was 81, all on 16. Now I'm going to find the square root of both sides. So I'm going to find the square root of this side, find the square root of this side. It's going to be plus or minus, of course. The square root of a square, they cancel each other out. I'm left with an x plus 11 over 4. And that's equal to, now I can actually find the square root of these things. The square root of 81 is going to be a 9. Square root of 16 is going to be a 4. It's still plus or minus. But I'm going to also subtract 11 on 4, minus 11 on 4 from both sides, leaving me with x is equal to, and I'm going to put the whole thing over a common denominator, over a 4. So I've got minus 11 plus or minus 9. And now I'm ready to say, I've got either x is equal to, well, let's do the plus first. So I've got a negative 11 plus 9 is a negative 2. Negative 2 on 4 is negative 1/2. Oh, excuse me. Just said, sorry, that wasn't good. Okay, let's try. I don't mean to burp. All right, so I've got an x is also equal to, now this time let's subtract them all. Minus 11 minus 9. Well, minus 11 minus 9 is minus 20. Minus 20 divided by 4 is going to be a negative 5. So they are my two solutions. And again, that's getting there a slightly different way. So, and the key difference here was I want to put everything on the other side because we're going to have the other side anyway, and I'm just getting there a little bit early with this one. It also means I keep the completed square on the left and make it equal to everything else on the right. So that is another approach which you can use, but essentially it's the same thing. It's just done in a slightly different order. The nice thing about doing it this way is I didn't have to have the 2 outside the brackets all the way through and then multiply at the end. I could just divide and forget about it. And I didn't have to restore it at the end by multiplying it all by 2. So that was the key difference. Hope that makes sense, folks.